optimism and hope for the common denominator of over 80 ethnicity, a country with 3,000 years of glorious history and culture. Ethiopia.
No attention to GERD as Russia-Ukraine crisis mounting. It seems international momentum to solve the dispute between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt over the start of operation of the GERD is waning in light of the West's preoccupation with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the reports of Al Monitor says. On February 20th, Ethiopia announced the partial start of electricity production for the first time from the grand Ethiopian Renaissance dam GERD that it is building on the Blue Nile, the main tributary of the Nile. The move was condemned by the two downstream countries, Egypt and Sudan, which have repeatedly denounced Ethiopia's unilateral measures in matters related to filling and operating the dam, the report continues. On February 21st, Egypt sent a letter to the UN Security Council, rejecting Ethiopia's start of operation of the dam in the absence of a legally binding agreement with the downstream countries governing the filling and operation process. A day earlier, the Egyptian Minister of Irrigation Mohammed Abdel Adi had sent the same letter to his Ethiopian and Sudanese counterparts. Paul Sullivan, a non-resident senior fellow with the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Center, told Al Monitor that the Russian-Ukrainian crisis will pull the oxygen away from many other issues, including the GERD dispute. Sullivan said, "It will be difficult to get the powers involved with this to focus back on the Nile issues. The crisis, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is very bad timing for many issues that needed to move forward." In the summer of 2021, Cairo and Khartoum succeeded in putting the GERD issue on the UN Security Council agenda despite Ethiopia's rejection of this step. Subsequently, a statement by the president of the Security Council urged the three countries to continue their talks under the auspices of the African Union, which has since sought to resume negotiations, but to no avail. Talks held under the auspices of the O since June 2020 have failed to reach a tripartite agreement on the filling and operation of the GERD. Cairo and Khartoum demanded Addis Ababa stop filling the dam's reservoir until an agreement is reached. The tripartite negotiations have been frozen since early April 2021, when the parties meeting in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, exchanged accusations of obstructing the talks. Alaa al-Zawahiri, a member of Egypt's negotiating committee regarding the GERD, told the Egyptian Masrai news website on February 25th that his country is considering withdrawing from the negotiations in response to Ethiopia's announcement, the start of the dam's operation. Any remarks up to this point, please, Malcolm?
Thanks, Ethan. Yes, let me say a few points. A large proportion of the Ethiopian people have no access to electricity. Only 46% use electric energy for day-to-day activities like food preparation and other tasks out of its over 115 million population. The sustainable development of the country will only be achieved when citizens are enabled to live up to the standard of living as humans. The poverty of energy heavily impacts on the living standards of the people of Ethiopia, notably health and human resource development, among others. The poverty of energy has strong impact on the health of women mainly, who use wood and charcoal for food preparation in the family. They are exposed to various respiratory diseases. The lack of electric power in households has a huge effect on ventilation and comfort of homes. The indoor pollution in homes will continue unless energy poverty is minimized in the country. The lack of power have negative impacts on such basic services as schools and health clinics too. As explained earlier, a significant proportion of Ethiopians still live in darkness and associated problems presently. But Egyptians keep stating and providing in-depth analysis on their own predicted future problems. They are not equally counting the problems the people of Ethiopia currently facing. Understanding and appreciating the concern and the problem of Ethiopia is so important. Egypt has been missing out this throughout. The GERD for Ethiopia is a project designed to enhance regional cooperation and integration, not conflict, as opposed to the predictions of Egyptians. Let me remind you, the Nile River during the colonial era. The Nile being one of the most important rivers in the world, there are 11 countries sharing the river basin. There was no water-sharing agreement between the basin countries for how the water should be distributed among them during the colonial period. Only Egypt had historical rights under the Nile Water Agreement signed with Britain in 1929. This agreement gave Egypt the right to veto any project in upstream countries affecting Egypt's share of water flowing to it. It is worth mentioning that the 1929 agreement was binding for the three upstream countries, Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, on the grounds that Britain, which colonized these countries, was their legal representative and could sign binding international agreements on their behalf. Egypt codified its legal status in an agreement with Sudan in 1959 after the Sudanese independence. So, that historical right has been the battleground for Egypt. The burning issue for Egyptians is losing that veto power and monopoly utilization of the Nile River it enjoyed so long.
Thanks for that.
Pleasure.
Let's continue to the rest of the report by Al Monitor. Peter Riot, who is a sector expert for water management, told Al Monitor that Ethiopians set their filling plans regardless of the annual flood degree or the downstream country's needs. For more than a decade, Egypt and Sudan have failed to persuade Ethiopia to agree to a legal agreement regulating the process of filling and operating the dam and its method of operation during drought years with low rainfall. This will reduce the amount of water that Addis Ababa will release toward the two downstream countries. Any point here?
I disagree with what Peter says. The GERD's reservoir filling time incoherently associated with the rainy season starting from June through August. This means that Ethiopia is filling its reservoir from rainwater. This is again its natural gift. Peter is suggesting Ethiopia to avoid using the rainwater too. This is fascinating. You see, these people are telling Ethiopians stop drinking water. This is too much and unacceptable. Ethiopia is waiting for the rainy season to fill up the reservoir as one of GERD's vital principles. Caring for others and sharing. Ethiopia cares for downstream countries. Ethiopia is aiming to share the electricity it generates to neighboring countries in the region too, Sudan being the primary beneficiary.
Thanks, Malcolm, for that. Okay, Egypt and Sudan also demand an effective and binding mechanism for settling future disputes, while Ethiopia insists on an agreement that includes non-binding guidelines. Adisu Leshita, a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Institution, told Al Monitor that the beginning of electricity generation from the GERD is an important milestone for Ethiopia, whose economy is currently suffering from the effects of high oil prices. He said, hydroelectric dams like the GERD, however, are not water consumptive. They generate electricity by releasing water downstream. Ethiopia says that the $5 billion dam, whose construction is more than 80% complete and which is the largest in Africa, is vital for its economic development and for providing energy. Following the announcement of the start of operation of the dam, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sought to allay Egyptian and Sudanese fears of the repercussions of this step. As you can see, this water will generate energy while flowing as it previously flowed to Sudan and Egypt, he said, adding that his country does not want to harm any party. The stalled negotiations are further complicated by Ethiopia's insistence on reconsidering sharing the Nile waters, Raid adds. Addis Ababa wants to include this item in the GERD negotiations. Egypt and Sudan refuse. Ethiopia's Ahmed urged the downstream countries in a speech to the Ethiopian parliament on February 22 to join the Cooperative Framework Agreement CFA, also known as the Entebbe Agreement, as it equally benefits all. In 2010, after talks that lasted more than a decade, 6 Nile Basin countries, namely Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda and Burundi, signed the CFA in Entebbe, Uganda. The agreement was rejected, however, by Egypt and Sudan, as it provides for the reallocation of the Nile water quotas set in the 1959 agreement that had granted Cairo an annual quota of 55.5 billion cubic meters, Khartoum an annual quota of 18.5 billion cubic meters. The Entebbe agreement shifted control over the Nile River from the downstream countries to the upstream countries. It opened the door for the reallocation of water quotas among the basin countries based on their respective contributions. Riccardo Fabiani, director of projects in North Africa at the International Crisis Group, told Al Monitor that there is nothing indicating that an agreement is likely to be reached between parties in the coming months. The gap separating these countries remains as large as ever, and there is no effort to bridge this gap. With no confidence and trust between them, it's very hard to see how they could go back to negotiating and reaching a compromise, Fabiani said. Fabiani sees that the third filling of the GERD, which is expected to take place this summer, is more likely to become a flashpoint for a further escalation of tensions between these three countries. Malcolm, any remarks on this, please?
Yes, let's start from the Entebbe Agreement, which is revolving around sharing the Nile waters. This agreement opens the door for the reallocation of water quotas among the Nile Basin countries based on their respective contributions. Egypt and Sudan rejected the idea. Why? They fear that it shifts control over the Nile River from the downstream countries to the upstream countries. As we clearly stated time and again, Egypt's worry is its inherent unfair control over the Nile River instead of the claimed water shortage. They are looking for the binding signature from the upstream countries to solely achieve their own interest, and they are not yet prepared to give away their monopoly demands. That is the fundamental problem when it comes to GERD agreement. So, yes, I agree with Peter Raid's point that there is still a long way to go for reaching on mutually beneficial agreement.
Thanks for that.
Are you looking to earn working remotely from anywhere with maximum flexibility and convenient? Do you have a talent or services to offer to your clients? You have great chance of working on several jobs or projects for multiple clients at one time. Or are you a business owner or employer who are looking for hiring freelancer to work on your project? Well, if that's yes, please click the link below to learn more about and get started.
Thanks for staying with us. We encourage you to post your views in this matter. Please also help the channel by liking, sharing, and also subscribing if this is your first time. Don't forget to check our collection of favorites below on description section. Great content and presentation requires time and money. So when you purchase items recommended by us, you are playing your part so that Ethiopia today achieves its goal of producing reliable and timely information that matters us all. Thanks again. May God bless Ethiopia and its people.
Optimism and hope for the common denominator of over 80 ethnicity, a country with 3,000 years of glorious history and culture. Ethiopia